Well, Culture Race in the church class, I want to touch on a few items that will be helpful for you to think about as you come to the end of the course. You're like saying, well, we're just coming out of week 2, now we're in week 3, and we're going to be heading into week 4 pretty soon. And that means there's not much more time left. The semester's coming to an end. And of course, this course is making its way down to land the plane, as I like to say, on the runway. And so, how do you land the plane in this course? Well, you have a major project at the end of the class, which you may want to think about as your final exam. And so, your final exam is divided into 2 parts. I want to be really clear on this and the nature of the final project or the final exam. You're going to find the details of the directions in your syllabus, but also is contained in the weekly assignments tab. If you go to week number 6 and week number 7, you'll find the directions for the final project. It's divided into 2 parts again. And the first part is more of a biblical theology section in which you are going to do some research work. And in this case, you're going to be looking at about 10 pages, no more than that. And I know that sounds really deep, but this is the intent of the class. And so part 1 of the first part of your project is to begin to think about the cultural influences here in the United States, looking at maybe even beyond the United States and going into other parts of the world, such as Africa or Middle East or even in India. The second part of the assignment is to give some biblical exegetical support. That's going to be about 2 pages. Remember, you were working on some of those disciplines early on in the week. You were to come up with 50 statements, and you were going to be working through those biblical passages. So there's going to be some help there for this project. So don't think like, oh, I got to start all over. There's been some beginning work up to this point for the final project. Number 3, you're going to be looking at a biblical theology section. This is where the heart of your work is going to be involved in. And so I give you 3 parts of what I'm looking for. And this is going to be about 5 pages in length. And so you're going to examine the nature of tribes, groups, and race in the Bible. You're actually going to study this, and you will begin in the Old Testament and work your way toward the New. So how does the Bible define groups? How do they define tribes? Moses has to deal with different groups, such as the priest community, and he was dealing with the pressure of Israel complaining. And so even his father-in-law says, hey, why don't you appoint some people to help you care for the needs of the people? So that's what we're getting at. We're looking at groups, tribes, even ethnic groups within the Old Testament all the way to the New, and how even in the New Testament, the church has to deal with cross-cultural concerns. Part C, you'll look at the nature of human relationship. And at this point, you're going to be mainly looking at the New Testament, but you're studying, for example, bloodlines, one race, one blood, and then building that multi-ethnic church and the Church in God's program. So you're combining all the textbooks together and building a theological topic on human relationships. And again, looking for biblical references. Please don't copy a verse that is a paragraph long. Just give me the citation, the verse alone, because you only got a limited spot, and I'm counting those pages. And then the last page is the action plan, which is about 1 page. It's the so what. What do you intend to do with the information that you've learned up to this point? And so once you are done with that, you go back to week number 7, and you'll begin to look at that section as well and build part 2, which is your ethnography. Now, the key to your ethnography is not answering all of the questions that are contained in the Blackboard assignment tab. You'll see a list of questions. You just choose ones that are most helpful for your theological and ethnography examination of your city, the community in which you live, the place in which you live. Okay, so that's where we're heading for this final project, and you're going to put it all together, and you're going to submit it. So part one is due in week 6. Part Number 2 is due at the end of week number 7, and plus all the other mini assessments that we're asking you to complete along the way. I hope that helps clarify the final project. Think in terms of one project, but divide it into 2 different weeks. And again, part 2, you do not have to answer all of the questions. I want to be very clear. Choose the ones that are most helpful to get to the information for your ethnography report or research. If you have any more questions, please email me, call me. I'd love to talk with you and clarify any more on your behalf.